What do you think, Bjørn? Are we in focus? Should we start the video? You guys have been with us for quite a while now in the farm searching process. Should be about 2 years by now. And during the last weeks, it really much looks like we finally get the signature on a contract. It still has to sink in for a while, I assume, until you realize that you're actually just buying a farm. So today I thought I'm going to tell you a little bit about the ups and downs of the last months and how we eventually made the purchase of a small farm in Norway. The last update video isn't even that long ago, but in these few months there was quite a lot happening. It's windy outside, I'm sorry if you hear that in the background, but we're having storm and today is the day where I actually had the time to film this video, so it had to happen. We ended up putting flyers of our farm search inquiry into all the supermarkets in the area. These flyers were actually what brought us the most contacts. And they also ended up connecting us with the sellers of the farm that we are buying right now. Other things like having an ad in the newspaper, in the digital and physical version, were not nearly as effective. And getting a farm through the regular way here in Norway, which is using finn.no, a website where brokers list their properties, wasn't getting us anyway, as everything would go into a bidding round and we would just end up being not able to pay as much for a property that seems to be worth a little less. The market competition was too high, so our only path was finding somebody outside the market that would like to sell their farm to us without going for the maximum profit option of having it listed publicly. And well, as soon as we had the flyers out in the supermarkets, we actually got quite a few phone calls and SMS. In the beginning, it was mainly people writing that already listed their farm on Finn. So they were just checking in if we had seen it or if we would be in any way interested. As I have pretty much seen every farm that is listed on that website in whole of Norway, there weren't really any surprises. But a few weeks in, we got a very nice message from a couple that isn't living too far from here. It was written very positive and friendly, something that you're normally not coming across in the property market. And these two were thinking about selling the farm, but weren't really sure. So they thought we should maybe just have a meet, see if it's a fit for us, a fit for them, and then just take it as it comes. We then had a first look at the property maps of Norway to see the exact location. And honestly, we weren't fully blown away. It was situated relatively close to a regular street. So from the house to the street, it's about maybe 8 meters. And that was not really what we were searching for. Our plan is to have something completely surrounded by nature and then just a gravel road leading up to it, maybe, let's say, at least 100 meters from the main road. The thing is that road up there isn't used by commuters. It's pretty much just for residents, and there are not too many, maybe 20, 30 houses and farms. So there is really not that much traffic. And the speed limit is about 60 kilometers an hour. So when you sit on the porch for maybe 2 hours, you may see 2-3 cars coming by. Even if it wasn't the perfect match, Thea and I had decided a while ago that we will have a physical look at every opportunity that is given to us. On the first coffee visit at the farm, we realized it was quite lovely. It was truly not what I was looking for, as my goal was to get an old barn and an old house in a traditional style that we could acquire for very little money, keep the loan as cheap as possible, and then me taking the time to rebuild everything piece by piece. Well, that farm that we were looking at this day was redone in 2018, and pretty much everything was fine. It's really something that you don't see often in Norway, as all the small farms have severe issues somewhere. But that one was ready to move in and nothing had to be done. Despite that fact, I really wasn't convinced, and we agreed that we are going to have a look at other options and let this decision rest for a while. And as it came, just a week later, we were looking at another farm. This time, a definite restoration project. A very lovely old house with pretty much 2 units that would need a lot of work but could be restored to a very traditional house for this region. The seller had acquired it to split off the farmland for his usage and then sell the house, the barn, and the few sheds that were associated to it. This farm was much farther away from the road. I think you would take maybe 500-600 meters of gravel road up a hill, and then on top of that hill you would find the farm. It didn't have any access to water, but it was much more what I was looking for. As Thea also enjoyed that place, we were trying to figure out a solution with the seller in terms of the price and how much land would eventually be associated to the house and the barn. A few weeks went in as the farm wasn't able to be sold at the first time we had a look at it, and eventually we got to have a meeting for final thoughts and details. That meeting was where the expectations went a bit too far apart. After speaking to the commune about the land division, the seller was only able to split up all land and then sell only the little bit of a grass stripe around the house and the barn to us. He was nice enough to say that we were able to utilize the forest around for firewood and other projects, but we wouldn't have any ownership of that land ourselves. The price was set to 2.5 million krones, which is 250,000 USD roughly, and we were really considering taking him up on the offer. But there was one final detail that didn't really work out for us. That was the fact that under the barn there was a liquid manure storage, and he would need to continue using that for his cattle activity around that farm. So there would be, for at least the next 5 years, a liquid manure storage in the barn that we were thinking about using for workshops or maybe rebuilding into an Airbnb. And that smell doesn't really make it so desirable to have people over. It didn't seem like we could find a compromise in that meeting, so we went home and really got thinking if we could justify buying a property that we really like that much, even though we would have to live with that cow smell that probably will make our own plans much more difficult. Some people wouldn't have to think that long on this decision, but we also eventually ended up saying no. I have to be honest, at that point it was pretty devastating, because the weeks leading up to it, it really seemed like we could find a solution and that we could finally get a farm that was close enough for Thea to commute to work and would give me the opportunity to do my personal projects and develop it into something where people could stay. So if you have this mental image ready of the place that you're going to finally own and move to, and it then gets shattered, it isn't that easy. I assume everybody of you that is also in the housing market can pretty much relate to that. You get this feeling of lost in your brain and it seems like nothing will work out. At that moment of mental clarity, if you may call it like that, it came to me that the farm we had been looking at a few weeks ago was much better of a deal financially and in terms of work. Even though it wasn't the dream location, it was still very nice and it wouldn't come with weird obligations of the seller in terms of usage of the barn. So we would actually own everything and have about 30 acres of land. In Norway standards, 30 acres is really not much. And if you don't own any utmark, which is like the out country, normally forests, then it also doesn't come with hunting rights, something that I was looking for. But in terms of creating our own little area of renaturation, where you have a few endangered plant and tree species and can try to contribute to the biodiversity of the area, and then still have something left for a little pond, a sauna, and enough room to grow your own fruits and vegetables, 30 acres is very much enough. And the nearest access to a lake from that property is just 5 minutes of walk. 30 minutes later, after saying no to the second farm due to the incidences, I made up my mind fully and thought we should buy farm number 1 that was offered to us. So I told Thea about changing my mind, that I could live without the project of a farm and decide for something that's ready for us to move in. She was very much agreeing and called the couple 10 minutes later if the farm was still for sale and if they would consider selling to us. I make the rest of the story a bit shorter. We went for a second meeting, agreed on the purchase details and the time of takeover. So about 2 weeks ago, we actually signed the contract and we're going to buy this farm and move in by 1st of May. 2.5 years of searching a place that we could afford and move to suddenly came to an end. And it wasn't any broker helping us. It wasn't an online find, or it wasn't via a Facebook group. It was through the good old rip-off flyer in the supermarket, which is quite a sweet coincidence in the slow countryside with the majority of older people living here, that a physical paper flyer was doing the job. So 3 weeks from now, we are going to move from this place back to the cabin to save 1 month of rent, and then hopefully by the 1st of May, finally get everything to the farm and start a new chapter. For all of you that are still searching for a cabin or a farm in Norway, there is hope to get something outside the brutal market competition. And maybe it might work for you as well to turn away from searching your opportunities online to socializing and communicating in the area, as well as having pretty much everybody know what you're up to. And then eventually things may fall into place. I'm not going to spoil too much with photos or videos of the farm that we're moving to, but I promise if you go to the Discord community chat in the description, then I will post a few photos and you can get a preview of what is going to happen in the next months.